Where do I start with my life?
Where do we start, Nancy?
Where do I start?
Where were you born?
I was born Newberry and Taylor
In Chicago?
Street, in Chicago, right, in Chicago. And at that time, the influenza was highly like our
COVID?
target. Yeah,
What year were you born?
I was born April 10th, 1918.
Hmm.
I don't know what time. My mother never said it. And we came from a very, very poor family. And my father rarely worked. We were on relief all the time, most of the time of our life. And I had a rough life.
Where did your parents come from?
My father came from Italy. My mother came from Italy. My mother was born in Bugnara, Abruzzi. And my father, I can't remember where he was born, but in Italy. And he was a stowaway. But he got caught. And on the ship, he had to do his work to pay his voyage. And when he came to America, he was a paisan, like a country general acquaintance, all right? And at the time, my mother was sent from Italy from another man, and he wanted to marry her. She sent a picture, but when she arrived and he saw her, he didn't want to marry her no more because she was a redhead and she was full of freckles, and he refused to marry her. I had met this man, and his name was Joe. And my stepmother had taken me to his relative, and he was there. And he told my stepmother, he says, in Italian, chi è sta viola? Who is this little girl? And she answered in Italian, she would have been your daughter. And he was very surprised. In the meantime, my father was visiting my mother's uncle, and he says, I'll marry her. Worst thing that she could ever done. And they got married. I don't even know the date that they got married. They never talked about their lives. Never. So anyhow, going on, we moved from Newberry Street to Taylor Street, and I remember when my brother was, not my first brother, second brother was born, I was taking care of my brother at the time when my brother Nicky was born. And I was a little girl. What could I have been, about 4 years old, 5 years old? And so that was that on that part. But my father was a mean man, beat up on my mother all the time. And he never worked, but my mother with a belly went to work in a laundry factory. And he used to go and pick her up, got her check, and spend it. My mother never spoke a word of English. So I was always beside her when I came back from school or whatever it is. and scrubbed the clothes of the kids. Then we moved on from Newberry to Morgan Street. Morgan Street was another situation that we were so poor, we had no shoes. My brother and I walked the alleys to get food to eat. That's how poor we were. And that's how it was. So
I'd like to thank BetterHelp, who's the sponsor of today's video.
How'd that go?
Sometimes this job is just too tough for me. It just is.
What do you mean?
We go through so much week after week after week. There's all this one drama and another, and there's so many difficult people to deal with. I mean, thank God I have somebody to talk to that just helps me understand, helps me calm down, helps me see through all the clutter and all the craziness that I have to go through, especially with this project. And that's where BetterHelp, who's sponsoring this video, is so helpful. It's just like, you can call this guy for anywhere. You can call him from your car, from work. I can go in the office, shut the door. I can do it at home. I can do it anywhere. It's great. It's just so helpful to have somebody just to like air your all your garbage on.
It's very helpful.
And make sense of it.
Yeah. I think it's great that you're able to work that into your schedule. I know that it's changing all the time.
Yeah, no, the schedule is crazy, but with BetterHelp, you can schedule it so easily. You just like, and for people that are looking for a new therapist, you call BetterHelp and you can get referred usually within 48 hours. And if you don't like that therapist, they'll you just keep trying until you find somebody that you click with. It's a great way to operate, and find somebody that just works for you, and then it becomes like your regular thing. It's really wonderful.
It's great to have each week to reset a little bit.
It's a reset. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's a reset. But BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist who's trained to listen to you no matter what your area that you need help with is. And it's just great to have somebody that's unbiased, that just listens and helps you understand.
I've seen you go into your sessions feeling a little bit pent up, and when you're done with your sessions, you just have this ease about you.
I'm a different person.
You're a different person.
I'm a
it's
different
so
person.
helpful.
Yeah, it really calms you down and just helps you, it gives you peace with everything that's going on. It's really helpful.
I wish some of our subjects that you interview knew how amazing therapy.
Yeah, therapy is it's such a beautiful fix. And sometimes it works quickly, and for other problems it takes longer, but either way it works. It just takes the willingness to open up and find out what's there and figure it out. And a great therapist can help you do that. If somebody needs help, it's so easy to let BetterHelp connect you with a therapist that can help you figure out your issues. You visit betterhelp.com/soft white underbelly, or just choose soft white underbelly during sign up, and you get a discount on your first month. All right, and now back to the video.
So
This is roughly what year?
1924, 25.
Tell me what life was like in 1925. Were there automobiles around?
No, my dad had a junky old automobile. Whatever he wanted, he got. But whatever us kids need, or my mother couldn't get. My mother had no control of the money. He had control of it all. And most times he did the cooking. And I could remember, oh God almighty, those were bad years for me, okay? And I will go on more. We'll go on. When I was about 10, 12 years old, my sister had got run over, and my brother and I, we were too scared to come home because we knew that he was going to kill us. He was always with a gun, always with a gun. And so anyhow, him and I never got home. We slept on the steps of the apartment that we lived in. That's how scared we were. I was supposed to watch Anna, which was with the one that got run over. So in order for me to stay outdoors with the other kids, I wanted to get the other child and babysit for the two. As I went up to get the other sister of mine, the truck that she was sitting on the curb, and the truck went and hit her leg and broke it. And he was running away from the. He didn't know what had happened, but my mother's uncle's son belonged to the 42 gang, and he saw and he caught him to pay for all the medical bill of her. Well, my mother took her to the doctor to have that leg fixed. That was when my father, she was so spoiled in the buggy, and I always had to take care of her. So this one particular afternoon, she was crying. She wanted to be pushed. So my father kicked me in the rear end and told me to go ahead, and I was so embarrassed to do in the afternoon in front of everybody in the neighborhood. Well, anyhow, I pushed her all the way to the corner, and when I got to the corner, I slapped her face. I said, "You made Daddy do this to me." Well, anyhow, by the time she got around the block, me pushing her, she had quieted down. But that's another phase of my life. So then we moved to Crenshaw. My mother's uncle gave her $2,500 to put down on the house. And that's when we went further west, way west on Taylor Street. And there's where we lived and lived and lived. There's where my bad memories are of my life. So at the time, my mother was pregnant again with her 8th child. And I was going to be 16 years old, and they had promised me, "We're going to get you a cake for your 16th birthday." Well, then when they found out that she was pregnant, he got me in the kitchen and he said, "Nancy, you're not going to get no cake because we're going to have another Dali." Words for words. So I was so disappointed I started crying. And I went to my neighbor across the street, and she was another one that was illiterate, I have to say, okay? And she says, that's all right, Nancy. I'll get you the cake. She used to stutter. And I was kind of happy. But in the meantime, my mother got scalded to death from having boiling water, and she, from her waist down, she was all burnt. That was on April 5th in the afternoon. He came to the school, and I was in my 2nd year high school, and he came and take me out of school, and that was the last day I saw my day of school in my typing class. And I had to stay home and take care of the kids. And I, at age 6, not even 16 years old then, all right, and taking care of 6 kids. The baby was 2.5 years old. He used to grab me at the skirt, and and he pull at whenever he wanted anything. He looked because when I went to see her in the hospital, she had this heat lamp over her legs and her mid. A heat lamp over her, and I thought, what? So I went to touch her thigh, and my finger went down into the thigh. And I thought, oh my God, what did I do? What did I do to her? What did I do? And I started crying. And she said in Italian, "Stata corte Siviglia, tu sei la mamma. Take care of these children. You are the mother." That was around the 6th or 7th of April.
How did your mom get scalded? How did your mom get scalded?
I just hate to repeat it because he had to cover his rear end, and he told everybody that she was carrying the hot water to the wash machine. We had an old-time wash machine, and we had no hot water tank, no hot water. She had to warm up the water on a coal stove. But the truth of it all was, I can't even, it's so hard for me to, she was trying to abort the baby, and she was sitting on a chair, on the edge of the chair, and she slipped right into the boiling water on the floor. She screamed so loud. My father was in the garage fixing up his junk. All right, and he came and he found her in the water. And right away they took her to Cook County Hospital, and there's where she was, and there's where she died, April 10th at 12 o'clock. Now, we had no money, nothing to eat or anything. So my sponsor for my confirmation, her family came over. They lived about 4 houses away from us. And they came over, and she right away took over cooking for us, and she died a two-piece dress in black for me, because I couldn't have none. So her father went begging throughout the street, down the 3 blocks, and I don't know how much money they got, but she had a very, very poor casket, poor funeral. So in my dream, my mother was saying, "I got no shoes on my feet," in my dream. So when the undertaker came, because the casket was in the house at them days, there was a flower in the front of the house, the front of the doorway, to let the people know there's a casket in that house. And my godmother, I have to say, her parents came over, and he was the one that went begging for the money for her funeral. All right. So when the undertaker came over that day, and I told him about my dream, the day of the funeral, he had a box under his arm, and I knew that it was a shoebox at the time. Sure enough, she didn't have no shoes on her feet. I lifted up her dress, whatever, I can't even remember the dress. She had no underclothes at all on her. So the last minute, they had to shuffle and find a pair of pants and a slip to put in the casket for her. And that's how we buried her. All right. So that was it. Now, I was so skinny at the time. Now, I was 16 years old. So skinny, and I was always going to the municipal tuberculosis clinic because I was a borderline of TB. So that's my life. So when the nurse came to visit for me, my father was sitting in the sun. I was in the living room on my hands and knees scrubbing the floor. And the nurse said, "Mr. Palucci, what are you doing? Your daughter belongs in the sun. You belong." And he threw that nurse out of the house. I wasn't able to go to the clinic anymore. In the meantime, when I was with the clinic, they put me into a tuberculosis sanitarium because I was the borderline of it. And this was during the school, summer school, no school days, okay? He couldn't stand me being over there without watching the kids that he took and he signed me out. So I couldn't stay in the, so there I am again watching all those kids doing their laundry. It was mostly really the three little ones, the two girls and the boy. The others were older, so they had a shift on their own, more or less. But another story I got, my brothers were in the garage with him fixing this junk, and he asked my brother Nicky for a tool. My brother didn't bring him the tool that he wanted, and he threw the scissors at him and hit him in the back. And luckily that the scissors point at him, that the scissors hit him. And that was that story, all right? So then we go on. 6 months later, another godmother, a goddaughter I had that was a renter upstairs, she had a boyfriend to live in, and he chased him out back to Italy, and he had a wife, which they found out when my father was interested in this woman. But anyhow, they got married. No room for me. I had to sleep on my mother's trunk that came from Italy, a wooden trunk with no blankets, no nothing. I slept on the trunk. And there's where I was, because she didn't care for me. She didn't want, because I was two voices. All right. My brothers and sisters, they slept in the back bedrooms. They had beds back there. So they slept, the boys slept in one room and the girls slept in the other room. All right. And that's how they were handled, okay. But me, I had to go sleep on the trunk. So that was 16, 17. I was almost 18 years old. My stepsister was pregnant, and her doctor was looking for a babysitter and a housekeeper. And so she was only giving me $2 a week plus the room and board, okay? So anyhow, and I took care of a little girl and all that kind of stuff. So that was in December of my age, almost 18. I would have been 18 in April, and this was in December. For New Year's, I had to move out of my father's house and going into the doctor's home, all right? So I was there January, February, March, April. It was on my day off. I had 1 day a week, and that 1 day a week that I had off, I used to take 2 streetcars to go see my sisters and brothers because they were in foster homes. She didn't want, my father disappeared. The gangs were after him, and they wanted to kill him. Well, I wish they would have, but anyhow, that was that part of the story. And I wanted that day off, and she didn't want me to leave. She wanted me to stay on. But I had a bad cold, and I said, no, I want to go, and I got to go see my kid. I says, so I drove in Chicago all the way from, I'm forgetting the streets also too. But anyhow, I had to take 2 streetcars. 2 streetcars to get to one. 3 kids were in one home, and the 2 boys were in another. No, a boy and a girl was in another home, because my father took my oldest brother with him. I didn't know where he was at the time. He disappeared. But then later on, I found out that he had gone and hid in Colorado by his half-brother. All right. And he's not a Palucci, he's a Martino. So he was there all the time until the brother threw him out because he was supposed to do some work on the farm, and instead the brother caught him sleeping by the tree. And he said, get out. The brother threw him out, so he came back home to my stepmother again. But the kids were already out of her hair and his hair. That was all right. But anyhow, before I got the job with the doctor, after the doctor, yeah, I wanted to go on an interview in a Jewish neighborhood way up north, and I didn't know how to get there. So this fellow was my stepbrother's boyfriend, and I said, George, do you know whereabouts this here address is? He says, oh yeah. I said, well, I'll pay your streetcar fare if you take me there for this interview. He says, all right. So we go, but I was underqualified for this Jewish family. So on the way home, on the streetcar, and we were talking, he says, why don't we get married? Just like that. Never went out with him. I couldn't go out with him because my father wouldn't allow it. And I was, like I said, I was 18 years old. So we couldn't find my birth certificate. So his brother took us to, I don't know what town it was, but we got married. So we only stayed 1 week with his brother, and his brother threw us out. All right. So we rented this 2 rooms for $5 a month. When we went to bed that night, the window came up and slammed down. And he went to check, and there was nobody there. The window was locked. He didn't know what would happen. He says, well, maybe there's a noise outside. So he came back to bed. Just as we were falling asleep again, the window came up and slammed down. And he went all around the room, around there was only 2 rooms, checked it out. He said, I don't know what's over here, but I'm not going to stay. He got scared. We went into the park, and there's where we slept that night, into the park. Peanut Park, near Pompey Church. And there's where we slept. So then I had the thought, I said, no, I'm going to go by my father. That's my father's house. All right? And there's where I belong. So I went to my father, I said, I want the 2 rooms in the back. And he had that as his coal shed. He used to dump coal in those 2 rooms. Well, anyhow, he said, no, I'm not kind of giving you the rooms, the 2 rooms. I said, why? Carmel no want you. My first stepmother didn't want me. I said, Carmel didn't want me. I said, why? This is Mama's house. Why? Who is Carmel? Carmel is only your wife. I said, I want those rooms and I don't care what you say. So there I am, sweeping coal dust from the walls and everything. And that's what I did. And that's how for heat, we used to go down on Wacker Street, drive underneath, and look for wooden boxes, cardboard boxes, to get heat in those 2 rooms in the dead of winter. And that's how we did. Finally, then we had to go on relief because we had nothing to eat. And my father lived upstairs, never once invited us or gave us a piece of bread, never. So anyhow, we went on relief, and they wanted to know if I pay rent. I said, yeah. How much? $5. And to whom? Well, they found on the record that he was on relief too. So he thought he was going to get extra $5 plus the relief money. But instead, they took $5 off of his relief money and included my $5 to his roll. Well, he got angry at me because of that. I said, I can't help it. I said, we got to eat. We got to eat. And at that time, he only made 50 cents a day. That's all he made. Well, anyhow, that's another story. Well, find out that he used to beat me up all the time. Oh, no matter if I said a wrong thing, he'd beat me up. He'd always hit me, always hit me. And my father didn't do nothing about it. Nothing about it. Nobody helped. I had no relatives, no cousins, no aunts, no uncles, no relatives at all. So I didn't know what to do, so I had to stick with him. So then I had my first daughter. God was good to me. That gave me enough milk. I fed her for 18 months on my breast. And that was it. So that part. But I'm going on and on with my stories. But how I got rid of him, he beat me up and made me black and blue, half of my body here. And we had saved war bonds. The war was out then. And we had saved a $20 war bond. I took the $20 war bond, and my stepsister's husband's cousin was a lawyer. And I went to him, and I told him that I wanted a divorce and all that. And he looked at me, he says, "Did he do that to you?" I says, "Yes. He beat me up last night, and this is what That's what he says. I'll fix the SOB. I'll get a subpoena out right now for him. He's got to get out of the apartment, and you and your daughter go into the apartment, and don't let him in the house anymore. Pack his clothes and out. So when he got the subpoena, he had to get out. I packed his clothes, and that's how I got back in the apartment. Well, my sister, the youngest sister, and my father came over. Big help. So my sister says, I'm not going to leave Nancy alone. He's going to come here, and I know he's going to kill her. He's going to kill her. I know it. So she stayed with me. 13 years she lived with me. Slowly, I grew up. I picked up my pieces. I found jobs here and there. And I told my daughter after many years later that I was a popcorn girl at Wrigley Field. I used to sell popcorn back of the counter. $1 an hour. So anyhow, I did that for that year. They never called me back anymore. I worked for a casket company that make caskets for that. I used to wrap the handles of the caskets. I used to wrap them and they shipped them. I worked there 2 years while he didn't work. Bad life I had. All right, I struggled with my daughter. I raised her in the Catholic school. I did the best I could with my children. And finally, being the head of my family, and I kept my mother's promise, take care of these children, you are the mother. I never let them down. My sister Anna used to come over. She used to take my nylons, and at that time, secondhand nylons were 10 cents a pair. Well, she used to take them because they were shipped to Maryville Academy in Des Plaines at that time. So anyhow, he said, your sister's in your drawer. I said, so what, George? Let her have it. She don't have nothing. Well, she's in that home over there. Let her have it. I got a beating for it. Well, okay, that was all. But anyhow, going all through that, finally, my brother, the war broke out, and one of my brothers was in Germany. The oldest brother was a 4F because he had heart problems. Then there was Nicky that was in Germany. Then there was Joe that he was home with my father. So he was a cocky kid, you know, like he knew it all. Well, the head of the office of the boys that used to go to him, to the they called it something, but I can't remember. And they says, grab him, put him in. So they made him a police MP in Chicago. And that's what he was doing. Well, anyhow, in the meantime now, Nicky was giving money to my father all the time. See, he always tried to mooch money from the kids. So finally I said, Nicky, send me the money. Don't send Daddy the money no more. Send it to me. I'll save money for you. So when you come out, if you want to get married, I'll have money for you. Well, that's what he did. I saved $2,500 for him. When he came out, he was going with a girl, and which was in the same home as my sister Anna. And well, anyhow, so they were going to get married. So I I, as the oldest sister, always gave the kids a birthday cake, because we never had a birthday cake. And when they got married, I always put a bridal shower for them. So I was pinning the wedding bell above the gift table, and in walks in this young man with a big box. And he said, "Where do you want me to put this box?" I said, "On this table. This is the gift table." He dropped the box and he went off. That was the first time I ever had eyes on my husband. He turned out, he wound up being my second husband. The best man that I ever knew. I was the happiest when that happened. He was a womanizer. He was a drinker. And he was smoking. So he asked me, a month later, he asked me for a date. I was afraid to go with him, but I said, well, it's a night out, so I'll go. So he says, where would you want to go? I said, the Chicago Theater and see Nat King Cole. So we went to Nat King Cole and seen Nat King Cole. Coming out, instead of taking me out to eat, he takes me to the tavern on Madison Street, where all the bums and the whores and everything were there. What would you want to drink? A Coke, and he have his beer. He take me to another one. What do you want? 7-Up, and he have his beer. Well, by the time we got home, he sat on a chair. My daughter got up. She had a bruise on her knee, and I was taking care of. And here he was, going this way and going that way, and I'm pulling him up. I thought, what am I going to do with this drunk? So I got a rag with a cold water, and I splashed it in his face. And I said, now get up and get out. Get out of this house. I said, and don't let that door hit you in the ass. I thought I got rid of him. The next day was Sunday. I hear a knock, and I didn't know who in the heck it was. Opened the door, and it was him. I said, Carmen, are you back? Didn't answer. He came in, and I said, now you're going to get an ultimatum. That's it. Either you take it or out you go. And he, listen, I don't want smoking, I don't want the drinking, I don't want nothing. He didn't say he was going to do it, he's not going to do it. It's all he did was kept following me all the time. Now, he was a truck driver. His boyfriend, his drinking boyfriend, came up to my house. He said, what did you do to Carmi? I said, what do you mean what I did to Carmi? Well, he don't come to the tavern no more, and he don't drink, and what did you do? Did you make a fattude on him? A fattude in Italian, meaning some kind of a husk that I give over him. I didn't make no fattude on him. And in them days, this is going to be awful. In them days, if a girl wanted a boy or a man or whatever she wanted and she was after, they used to take her monthly blood and give it to him, and that would drag him to her. Okay, that was an old Italian.
How would they do that?
She would take her blood that she had from a monthly, and she'd feed it to him without him knowing. No, the man, the fellow does not know what he's doing.
Like in his food?
In the food or a piece of bread or anything that he would swallow, that he would eat. That's what they used to do.
And it makes him fall in love.
And that would bind him to her. You know what I mean? That would bind him to her. And that's an old-fashioned. To me, that was sickening. All right, I didn't have to do that. I just laid my ultimatum down to him, and that was it. Never went drinking, stopped smoking, and he never went to any women anymore. And he always followed me, and I'd always be with my sisters. You know what I mean? I wanted to know where they were going, what they were doing. If they were working, I wanted to know about the work. You know what I mean? I was the controller at that time with my sisters and brother, okay? Because I always had them living with me. I had my oldest brother living with me for 5 years after his wife died. My sister Christina, 13 years. Anna lived with me, and she was off and on. Okay? So that, and I always was around my own family. And I kept my mother's promise, even up to today, sometimes. All right? And one of my nieces says, I am the glue of the family. And once I'm gone, the family's going to go apart. All right? And I think that's the reason why I am 106 years old. Because of that. All right? And the fact that my lovely daughter, when I was dying, and I did die, 2 minutes more, and they would have put the sheet over my face. And she was crying, don't leave me. That one. Don't leave me, Mommy. I'll be all alone, don't leave me, don't die. For some reason, I don't know, subconsciously, I heard her crying and heard her saying those words. And in my mind, I said, I gotta fight. 3 times I said it. I opened my eyes, and the doctor found a little heartbeat in my wrist. And that's how I came to.
So you had an allergic reaction to an antibiotic?
Right. That's what happened. And so quickly, I was out. I don't know what they did to me. I don't know anything. All right? And that was it. I lived 22 years in Las Vegas after my husband died. And my husband died at age 80, and I was 80 also.
Somewhere in this story, World War II happened.
Oh, World War II. I was with that's another big thing in my life.
Tell me about World War II.
I was married to my first husband. I don't think I had my daughter yet. I was ironing, and I had the radio on, and over the radio, war broke out. And I started crying because I had 3 brothers, and I knew that they were going to go in the war. All right? And I started crying. That was a big thing in my life. Now, the next thing I forgot to tell you, is my story, was during my divorce, my husband, George, I'm going to say George, came and crying, dropped the divorce, I won't hit you no more, and blah, blah, this, blah, blah, that. And I thought, wait a minute, what am I doing here, divorcing him while he's going to war, when he could go to war and I could get his allotment and some money to live on, his daughter and me, you know what I mean? So I said, I'll tell you what, I'll make you a bargain. You go for your examination. If you go to war, I'll drop the divorce. But if you come back with a red mark on your hand, the divorce is going. So he agreed on that. So he went for his physical, because they give you a thorough physical during the wartime. He came back and I looked at his hand. He had a red mark on his hand. I said, well, George, I'm sorry. The divorce is going through. And later on then I found out he was temporarily insanity. That's the reason why he went goofy to beat me up. And at one time I was hanging from a window on the second floor, and my daughter was about 4 years old at the time, and she saw him beating me up and everything, and I'm hanging on from the window, and she went and bit him in the rear end. And when he went to grab her from the bite, I escaped from the window. And that's how I got away from him. Otherwise, I would have been dead then. Yeah, that was at that time. But my good life started when I met my second husband. When I met my second husband, I was the happiest woman. He was so good to me. I could have done anything I want. No matter what I did for my sisters and brothers, he agreed. He never beat me.
What was the relationship like between your oldest daughter and your second husband?
Wonderful. I was going with a Polish man at the time. And she came up to me, and if you marry Eddie, I'm going to run away from home. She said, I want you to marry Carmi, she said to me. I said, you don't tell me who to marry. At that time, she was Angela. You don't tell me who to marry, Angela. I said, I marry who I want to marry. Well, in the meantime, the Polish fellow didn't know that I had been married and had a daughter. I shielded her all the time. And we were getting closer and closer to marriage. And when he found out that I was married before and with a daughter, he broke off. That's when Carmi came in fully into the picture then. And that, wonderful. In fact, I got pregnant with his first, Carmine is the second child I got pregnant with him. And she said to me, I want Daddy to adopt me because you're having the baby, and that's a Rossi, and I'm a Khalees. And she says, and I don't want that. I want to be a Rossi. I said, I can't say it. I have no control of that. Ask him. If he wants to adopt you, I'll agree. So he came home, and she told him that she wanted to be adopted by him. He said, all right, is that what you want? You want me to adopt you? Okay, I'll adopt you. And that went on for I don't know how many months, because the lawyer told me if he comes up with all the money of support of him.
If your ex-husband comes up with the money?
Yeah, if my ex-husband came up with the money, then the adoption couldn't be. All right. So anyhow, when it came time to be adopted, the judge told him, you want to adopt this girl. She was 9 years old at the time. And if you want to adopt her, she's just as if she was born to you. And he says, yes, Your Honor, yes, I know. So he turned to her. He says, do you know that this man wants to be your daddy? And she put her head on his hip like a loving, And he said, yes, I want him. I want him to be my daddy. Adoption granted. Just like that. Everybody loves Carmi. Everybody loved Carmi. All my Christmases, New Year's parties, all the get-togethers, it was a happy family.
And he stopped his drinking, he stopped smoking and womanizing?
He stopped smoking, he stopped all of that.
For you?
For me, yes. And, the best part is that I said to him, because I love to dance, I says, you got to learn how to dance. I says, if you don't learn how to dance, Carmen, I'm going to dance with other men. And he didn't like that. On a sneak, he joined Arthur Murray dance school. And he used to go to the classes, all the time. And I didn't know that. I thought he was working. And here he used to go to the dance class until there was a concert, not a concert, but where they profess what they learn. You know what I mean? And so he said, the teacher told him, you got to bring your partner to go into this here competition that we had to be in. So we went, and I said, you were coming here with that blonde all this time? And he says, yeah. Oh my God, I says, I can't believe it. She was a pretty, beautiful girl, blonde and all that. We won the waltz. We won the contest of the waltz, yeah. And after that, we start going to Trinon, Aragon Ballroom, Paradise Ballroom, all the ballrooms that we could get. We used to go dancing. And he said to me, I never knew how much fun it is to go dancing. See? I said, I tried telling you that it is. Till today, I love to dance. I danced at my 106th birthday. I was Passionello.
Your daughter told me you just gave up your driver's license at 104.
At the driver's license, I had to renew my driver's license now. And I didn't know whether I was going to, get another driver's license or not after 100, So I passed everything. And I was talking to them and all that, and the manager heard our conversation, and he says, give her the driver's license. And that's how I got the driver's license up to 104.
What did you think when you got your license at 100 years old, and it expired at what age?
Oh, I was still feeling young. The number 100 didn't mean nothing to me, because I was still doing things when I was 90. You know what I mean? I was still going dancing, I met 3 different men in my complex where I lived, and we went out to dinners and stuff like that. Nothing elaborate about it, but just friendship, you know.
What did you say when you got a license at 100? It probably expires at 104.
None. I start laughing. I start smiling. You know that I was still driving at that time. I still was going to the casinos to go to the dances. I always went, even 102.
So how many children do you have?
I got 2 children. One is 86, 87, and I lost a boy in between time. I miscarried at 4 months, and then the doctor told Carmi, if she gets pregnant again, she's gonna die. So don't get her, you know, I couldn't get pregnant. Well, I was 39 years old, or 38 or whatever it was. I said, I want a baby. He said, no. I said, yeah, I want another baby, because my sister was having a baby and my sister-in-law was having a baby, and I wanted a baby too at that age. So finally I got pregnant. And sure enough, 3rd month I had to stay in bed because I was going to lose her. And in 39 I had her. I said, I want another girl. Yeah, and that's how come she's here today. There's a reason for it, why I wanted her.
What was that reason? Just because your sisters?
No, the reason is that she's taking care of me. All right.
You're smart.
She took me in and she's taking care of me. Even though we fight like crazy, but she's still taking care of me. I love her dearly, dearly, no matter what happens. I love her dearly. And that's it.
Nancy, what would you say was your favorite decade of your life? Your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s?
My favorite was in the 40s.
When you were 40 years old? Or 1940s?
1940.
1940s.
Yeah.
That was during the war.
Yeah. Oh, I got to tell you the best during the war. My brother Nicky was in Germany guarding the wall in Germany. Okay.
The Berlin Wall.
And he wrote a letter to my father that he wanted a package. So my father, naturally, he's not going to do nothing. He's not going to spend any money on the kids. So he comes to me, hey, Nancy, I got this letter from your brother and blah, blah, this and blah, blah, that. I said, Daddy, I don't have no money. What am I going to do? I'm barely living with my daughter and I, you know. So I went to my brother. My brother Jimmy was, at that time, he belonged with the Moonshine Gang. So, and I knew that he had a lot of money. And I said, Jimmy, your brother wants a box. I said, I don't have it. So he took $50. He said, here, buy whatever you want for Nicky. Okay. So I went out and I bought a bottle of whiskey, a loaf of Italian bread, hard salami, hard sausage, super sod. I think that was about it. So now, it was all right for the super sod, the salami, and the hard sausage. But how am I going to get this whiskey to him? I didn't know how I was going to get the whiskey to him. So I got a bright idea. I took the Italian bread, I took all the guts out of the Italian bread, and I stuck the bottle of whiskey into the Italian bread. Wrapped it all up even with the guts of the bread. I figured they could eat it, you know what I mean? So I wrapped it all up. I made it nice. The box was about so big. All right. And I sent it to him. A month later, my father gets a letter from my brother. And those letters were all censored, you know, at the war. And it's all he says to my father. What a party we had with his buddies. And that's all I knew, that they had a big party. So that made me happy, you know, to make him happy.
Do you have any regrets in your life?
If I got any regrets in my life, yes, I do have a lot of regrets. I have some regrets. Yes, I do have regrets. I have regrets. I wish I wasn't as generous as I was.
You were too nice to people?
Right. As I was?
You were too nice to people?
I was too good to people. Whatever they wanted. One brother needed $1,000 because he was short of $1,000 of money on down payment on our house, and I lent him the money. Another brother, he used to buy junks, fix them up, sell them to make extra money. So when he ran out of money, he always came, Mom, I need $600. I need $500, and he used to give me back the money. You know what I mean? And whatever they needed, they were out of job, were out of work. I used to bring grocery bags full of groceries for them to eat. I did that for them. I took my mother's words too serious. I'm the oldest of 7 children, and the other 6 are gone, and I'm still here. I'm the oldest, and I'm still here.
Really? Has life gotten easier or more difficult in the last 100 years?
Well, they were difficult at sometimes, and sometimes they were good. They were good. But I always managed to be up, always up, you know what I mean? Parties, I used to arrange picnics, I used to, always with the family, always doing things happy with the family, you know? Whatever the kids wanted, I used to make sure that they used to get it, or they have it, or whatever it is. And the weddings, they always asked me to arrange things for them, to do things for them, you know, and all that kind of stuff. And I was too giving, too much giving. And now that I'm all alone, there's nobody around. Nobody around but just that one daughter, all right? My other daughter's in Vegas, and she could never do what my Carmine does. Never, never. Right? So here I am up until now. But I'm still up. I still want to dance. I still want parties. I want people around me. You know? And I taught my daughter how to make raviolis. I taught her how to do make gavadils, which is, gavadils in Italian is gnocchi. All right. And I try to teach the kids how to save money. And when they were little, when they were first starting to work, and I used to tell them, if you make $1, spend 50 cents, but save 50 cents. Always make sure you have something saving.
Are we improving or are we falling apart as a society?
Worse. Politically, it's gotten worse. Because after the war, we start seeing prosperity. People were buying homes more, living better more, and how could I put it? People were saving during the Depression was bad. The Depression was very bad that we had, okay? And we lived through it. We lived through it, yeah. So, but my life was better after I was married to Carmi.
What advice would you give to a young person today?
I still didn't make out.
What advice would you give to a young person today?
What advice I give to a young person? Your word is your bond. I don't like false people. You know what I mean? If I say one thing, it's going to be that one thing. Not you say it. Words are cheap. Words is cheap. You and I are talking, it's cheap. But the action of it is what counts. And this is what I keep telling all my kids. Words mean nothing. You could say the words now and mean nothing an hour from now. But the action that you do in that 1 hour, that's what counts. That's what I tried telling everything. But the Rossies have a way about themselves. Time means nothing. Time means nothing. Words means nothing. And I tell this to my nieces and nephews.
All right, one last question, Nancy. What would you say is the most important thing you've learned in 106 years of living?
What is honesty? Honesty. I hate false people. I have a friend that's close over 75 years that we're still friends. When I worked at Alden's mail order house, this is way before your time, all right? And I still have her as my friend. She's still alive. And I had another friend that was very, very close, and that's when I was doing nurse's aide at the hospital in Chicago. I volunteered one Sunday a month to go to the Women and Children Hospital, and I donate my whole day. And we were just married not long with Carmi, and he didn't care. He made me go ahead, you know. I did it, and that was it, you know. And I had to quit. I graduated with a cap, a nurse's cap, and our outfits were blue dresses. We were called the Ladies in Blue. And most of my time was with pediatrics. this one baby sticks to my head until today. She was only 9 months old, and she had a spinal bifida the size of a small football in her back. And when I had to change her diaper, I had to put her on the side to change her diaper because that spinal bifida was so big. And the parents gave her up to the hospital. That I still think of that little girl. I still think of it. Then I had another one, a black baby boy. It's all he wanted. He wanted me to hold him on this side and rock him on the chair. That's all he wanted. And that's what I used to do. Take care of those, change their diapers and take care of them.
All right, Nancy. Thank you so much for sharing your story. You've led a very interesting life.
I had a very, I don't know if you call it colorful, because it was sad and happy. And all that I did and all that I gave, I didn't expect my life to be this way. I didn't.